the thing I want to address today, the thing that's obviously the thumbnail for this video is about, is the whole fact that Robert Meyer Burnett found himself being cancelled over a naughty, naughty tweet. Oh God, where to begin? So, he made a tweet in response to the shooting death of that ex-police chief, Dorn, and he was very upset by it, and he had set out a tweet. I'm not going to try to quote it verbatim. He deleted the damn thing after all. I'm sure someone's archived it somewhere if you really feel like digging through the internet yourself, but it's just one tweet out of thousands upon thousands upon thousands the guy has made over the years, so we're all emotionally exhausted. We've had months of all this lockdown stuff, the constant stress and worry about what the future is going to be, and then now all the stress and worry about the rioting / protests and all the various permutations of events that might still be coming down the line because of it. America has been going through a big, slow grief phase over the death of our economy, period, I would say, and the whole COVID-19 thing, and all this is just a part of the second phase of that. The grief cycle being you start off with the denial, then you go into anger, and then you finally reach acceptance. Well, we stayed on denial for a long time, and only just in the last week has America seemed to enter the anger phase, and it could have been any number of things which triggered it. I think just by virtue of the fact that you have so many sub-factions of people all participating in these things kind of for their own different ends, using the protests over George Floyd kind of as a cover to, you know, get away with their own little personal agendas. All backs up what I'm saying. There's just this simmering, roiling rage under the surface that I was just looking for something to start frothing over about. And we all need to learn how to forgive each other for our little outbursts during this period of time. Now that we are in the anger phase, hopefully it's imperative for all of us, if we can get ourselves through the anger phase as fast as possible. I mean, we spent 2+ months in denial. We can't afford to stay in anger that long. We got to get it out of our system. And you can't get anger out of your system if you never allow it expression. And so what Robert Meyer Burnett did was fine. Was it the wisest way to phrase things? Probably not. But he shouldn't be having to chastise himself over it. And he shouldn't be, you know, being forced to lose his spot, his longtime spot with the Schmodown stuff and the Schmoes No Network, which I stopped watching Christian Harloff years ago. I mean, as I was going to try to get to saying, so many of the left-wing entertainment YouTubers are so incredibly fake, incredibly disingenuous. Their entire life and their entire gimmick is a virtue signal, and like many of the larger YouTube channels, there always seems to be paywalls behind which, if you ever want to have any sort of interaction or talk to these people, they're expecting you to have the super chats or donate to their Patreon or something like that if you want to be able to have any sort of access to them. Which means that a lot of these channels that say like, oh, we got this great community we're building, oh, we love our community here at Screen Junkies, or we love our community here at Collider, or we love our community here at whatever, that's all bullshit. It's not a community if the only people who are allowed to talk have to pay to fucking talk. And that's why I like Robert Meyer Burnett. He is not a shill. He does raise money. He does accept super chats, and he has a tip link and all that kind of stuff. But I almost never ever hear the words pop out of his own mouth encouraging people to donate to him. It's entirely spontaneous. He does have mods that do it for him, and that's really the way to go about it. And on top of that, it's not a paywall. You can still actually get him to interact with you if by sending him in letters to his website or sending him videos and stuff. He doesn't make you have to give him a couple bucks for the privilege of reading your letter on his daily podcast. And that's great. Very few YouTubers of his stature, and I know he says he's not one of the biggest ones, but he's fuck ton larger than my ass, so from my point of view, he's a big YouTuber. And I highly respect the fact that he reads my letters as much as I do, as much as he does. So I'm totally on Robert Meyer Burnett's side. It's ironic, in one of the last letters I had written into him that he read out loud, there was a part where I said something along the lines of how you can't recant your sins enough for the Inquisition because they're still likely to throw you onto the pyre anyway. And lo and behold, the same thing just happened to him days later. There's a reason why it's not wise to apologize to the mob. It's not wise to apologize to the Inquisition. And that's because they're not really out to punish you. So, you can sign your confession, you can repent for all the terrible things that you did on Twitter, and it doesn't matter. They won't be able to forgive you. They still have to throw you into the fire, because they're not doing it really to punish you, the individual, for having caused the offense. They're doing it to set an example for all the others watching. So make sure that they're all intimidated into towing the line and not stepping out of bounds and saying the wrong thing. Otherwise, you might get canceled just like RMB. And as far as I'm concerned, as much as I if on paper, if I take one of those political compass tests, it still tells me I'm a far left person. But it's hard for me to kind of even fathom that, because at least I guess it's just on a policy kind of thing. But the whole attitude from the left, the hyper moralistic attitude of the left, if they're having to enforce that morality through these sorts of intimidation tactics and by making public examples out of people, is it really moral at all? I would think that if your belief system is sound, you wouldn't have to resort to those sorts of tactics in order to keep people, all boxed in together with it. So, we have to be able to express ourselves, or this isn't going to ever be able to stop. It's just going to drag on and on and on. So, all this stuff about having to, the whole blackout day thing the other day, that's not helpful at all. Shutting a bunch of people up for their skin color, that's racist. We're seeing the manifestation of what has occurred for 20, 30 years now of putting on this belief system around ourselves that no matter what black people do, they can't be racist to white people, and white people are all automatically racist. The videos of just people, all the kneeling and all that stuff, that's incredibly dangerous type of shit. And unfortunately, when I see crowds of people kneeling, the first thing that pops into mind is that damn scene from the first Adventures when Loki's in Germany and he's telling everyone to kneel. He's going to take freedom away for their own good and that kind of stuff. And then you have the one guy stand up in the crowd and say, no. Well, we don't have that one guy standing up in the crowd to say no. And if that guy did try to stand up in the crowd and say no, he'd get the shit beat out of him. Because, unfortunately, we don't live in a world with comic book fucking heroes who are ready to swoop in and save the day like Captain America. We're just left up to the bravery of individuals. And as much as I admire Robert Meyer Burnett, I understand why he buckled. I understand why he's taking the attitude he takes. He's a much more diplomatic person than I am. I'm willing to be antagonistic to people. I don't mind it at all. I find it kind of enjoyable, even though it tends to drive people away. But fuck it, I don't need them anyway. But I wish he hadn't had acquiesced to the demands of the crowd. He shouldn't have deleted his tweet. He wasn't like quoting rap lyrics about shooting all N-words or any kind of shit like that. He was just saying that this guy, like, there was no one there to defend this dude who was trying to himself defend a friend of his from getting his store robbed, and that someone should have been there to shoot the kill. So, whatever. It's a sad world. That these are the sorts of things that we have to worry about being damned for. What did he do to, like, not only get kicked off the Schmoes Network, but apparently I didn't watch it myself because, like I said, I haven't bothered watching Christian Harloff in a long while. But apparently on Christian Harloff's own stream today, I guess on Collider or whatever he's currently on, they were talking shit about Robert Meyer Burnett. Well, you know, I guess just to flagellate themselves and prove that, like, yeah, no, I screw that guy. I'm totally on your side. It's just a bunch of posturing. It's fake. It's why I don't like them. It's why even though I don't consider myself part of the Fandom Menace, I primarily watch Fandom Menace channels for most of my movie news. The only reason I watch John Campea is because of Robert Meyer Burnett. Robert Meyer Burnett, I'd gotten into him when he and John Schnepp were co-hosting, what was it, that Heroes show where they would talk about just comic book stuff back on Collider, back before John Schnepp passed, R.I.P. But, you know, I'd stopped watching Collider after, like, another rage quit from Campea, because I got tired of watching Campea build up these shows, build up these teams, and then quit and leave everyone holding the bag while he just goes off to go start something else. And I think it was because Robert Meyer Burnett had popped up on Midnight's Edge or something is what kind of put him back on my radar, and like, oh, he actually has a channel, and I started, you know, watching him again, getting into it. And several months ago after my mom died, I started making a point of writing in, because there's something about watching his channel, especially when he was ragging on the modern Star Treks and stuff, that reminded me of, you know, the days of having really long, elaborate conversations / arguments with my mom about Star Trek, and I've kind of missed that in my life, so I feel like that's somehow satisfied by just listening in on him. And so I got encouraged by one of his moderators to start writing letters, and he seems to take to most of them. The only times he won't read something I write in is if I'm probably pushing a little too much into edgy territory with some of the stuff I'm saying. So as long as I dial it back a little bit, I know I can get some amount of interaction. And I've actually gotten a good amount of channel growth because of that over the last few intervening months. The idea that he's some sort of virulent, white supremacist, racist, advocating violence is the most ridiculous bullshit in the world. No one who knows him could possibly believe that, and so the people over there, the Collider and Schmoes who've just thrown him under the bus. Once again, you know, if you're scared of your own side, why are you on that side? You don't have to become a Republican by leaving the left. You can be a renegade agent like I am. But it's time for a lot of people to just wake up, and that, like, it's time to get out of the Matrix, Neo.